Bitcoin hitting our first target off of the bounce of 58,500 bucks. And in today's video, I want to be going over what to expect next in the short term. And then of course, go over a very specific scenario, or sorry, specific number that if met by the end of this week would indicate that the Bullish hopes, the bullish hope is done and over with. But until that happens, I'm still, at least personally speaking, generally, looking at this as one major massive opportunity for the long term as an accumulation here. But of course, always have to be entertaining the possibilities, of the opposite to happen. So that'll be the big focus of today. And other than that, I want to once again let you know that no, we do not have a sale going on anymore. So that's over and done with. It's really, really cool to see a lot of people get into the Krown qual automation service. So probably too many people, honestly, but that's the purpose of a free month. I'm expecting a lot of very interesting questions about this. But at the end of the day, I just want to remind people that if you are getting in this, because we've had a massive influx of people over the past week, just bear with us a little bit. We are still getting our system set up to kind of help as many people as possible. But again, at the end of the day, most questions can be answered with the tutorials. In fact, almost all of them can. So please do make an effort to watch those if you have not already. All right, sweet. Let's jump right into this one, starting off with my damn notes over here because I put them away. And here we go. All right, so Bitcoin bouncing off 58,000 bucks last week. We did look at that as an extreme likelihood to at least trade up here to the 382 level, maybe even the 50% level before a bit of a pullback, regardless of whether you're super bullish or super bearish. That much was extremely likely, let's say. Now comes the fun part, because Bitcoin is pulling back, after this target being met, which is to be expected. But what happens on this pullback is going to be the sort of telling factor, I do believe, as to whether Bitcoin is indeed bullish long term, and this is one massive accumulation, or whether it's actually reversing for the very, very long term as well. Now, again, I'm of the opinion that this is a reaccumulation first and foremost for, many of the reasons that we explained on many of these videos, actually. But in this case, we can see right here that Bitcoin, if I reference my notes yet again, on Tuesdays and particularly, is most likely to experience negative closures. In fact, it is over a 61.5% probability since the beginning of 2024 began that Tuesday would close negatively from open to closure. So that is actually rather interesting because it plays into the analysis that short term we do see a pullback today, and Tuesday also has the highest negative returns out of any day as well, at losing an average of about almost 3%. So putting that into numbers here for Bitcoin price, about 3% off of today's open would put Bitcoin where? Back down around about 61,000 bucks, give or take, $100 from that number. So somewhere around there is probably what we're looking for on this pullback. Does that completely negate any sort of long-term bullishness or potential bullishness? No. To be very specific, we'll get into what would invalidate that a little bit later. But for now, we have a pretty obvious range being formed here, right? Between yesterday's high, which was just under 64,000 bucks, and the lows on a closing basis of last week, which is basically 60,000 bucks. Moving on from there, I do want to, and then also on this pullback, we should also be aware that CME gap is coming in here in sort of the mid to upper $61,000 territory. There is about a $400 premium over spot price action right now. So that, kind of equate to like low 61. So we have multiple points of confusion and confluence for this current short-term pullback. But ultimately, likely to continue on with the range, which long-term would favor the Bullish. Back on over here for the daily time frame, also kind of playing into our bounce idea was, of course, the HPRV volatility going back into a contraction phase, which we did see a move, pretty much to the median. I mean, maybe there's one more attempt there before the pullback, but Tuesday's probably likely to be the pullback. So I do think that we've probably seen the high for the short-term rally as of right now. But here's the thing, and here's the big focus of today's video. Let's go over here to the weekly. And I think the weekly chart is just super clean, actually, for the HPDR bands. Look, as long as Bitcoin is closing above the 38.2 level, which is 61,400, so that's your weekly closing basis, I'm still going to be leaning towards the bullish side. I'm still going to be leaning towards this being one massive reaccumulation, and sideways is going to be beneficial to the Bullish. If you start to see Bitcoin close below this region, or if you start to see dailies below about 60,000 bucks, again on CME here, a little bit below 60,000, like 59 58.9 is what I'm trying to say. That is at the point where I'd say, hey, this rejection is significant. It's the next lower high in a series of lower highs. That likely leads to, a breakdown of this long-term multi-month range to the downside. And we can start to talk about, targets, maybe into like the mid 40s, as we went over in the worst case scenario video on Saturday. Still very much relevant. Just I'm not leaning towards that scenario being the most likely thing to happen. Again, that'd be kind of my trigger for that. Until then, still going to be favoring Bitcoin, probably doing something like this, honestly. Oh, I guess I already have my LARP lines in there, but let's go to a fresh chart. Yeah, just kind of filling this area out. Boom, maybe something like that. And then we see, a move to the upside later in this month in July. Still think that's kind of best case scenario for the boo laws here. But here's one last thing that I'll kind of leave you with. Let me pull up a fresh chart. Yeah, here we go. I want to show you Coinbase, which obviously does have a very strong correlation to Bitcoin and by extension, the greater crypto market. And I think Coinbase is looking significantly more healthy than Bitcoin itself. Whoops, just got my damn brush out over here. I think this greatly strengthens the case that Bitcoin is also putting in this weekly higher low as well. This one's just a much cleaner chart, probably because it's in traditional markets. You don't really get that weekend nonsense going on, which can kind of be difficult to incorporate into like the more long-term view. But looking at this right here, what do you see? See a clear higher low. I'm sure if I actually pull up my RSI chart, we probably even have some hidden divergence here too. Let's just actually go and confirm that, because I'd like to actually see that. Where's my damn Coinbase chart? There we go. Let me go to a weekly as well. Let's see, do we indeed have that in? Yes, indeed. In fact, multiple drives here now that I check in on it. So, I do think very, very likely this one does end up being bullish. I think we kind of went over this earlier, but I just want to reiterate this point because this is also of great interest here. Where's my damn chart? There we go. Yeah, back above Monday's high. Anywhere back above Monday's high, especially on a daily closing basis. Expect Bitcoin to make, I don't know about a quick move, but generally a move towards 66 to 7,000 bucks. That's going to look really, really good for this being, the next macro higher low as well. So just keep an eye on that one. That's pretty much it for today. Those are the major things I really be wanting to be aware of for not just today, but also this week, and kind of how they all, put themselves together. Just kind of, put some conjecture on this and summarize this video. Short term, Bitcoin likely to pull back after hitting that short term target to the upside off of the bounce. Coming down somewhere around 61,000 bucks, give or take a few bucks from that number, is completely fine, and likely just based off of daily statistics. But problems start to occur when you see Bitcoin below about 59.9 on a daily closing basis, or weekly below about 61 on CME, or to the upside. I guess wouldn't necessarily be a problem, but you'd be looking for a continuation of this with any sort of move, especially on a closing basis, back above Monday's high, which is just under 64,000 bucks. Until we get one of those two things, the range of boringness is the most likely thing to be happening here. Could very easily see something like this, and maybe we see if Bitcoin is bullish, it actually make an attempt, probably not later this week, probably early next week. Again, if you're bearish, you're looking for Bitcoin to break down sooner rather than later, preferably from this last lower high here. So yeah, that is in place, but again, those are my leanings, and I think that's a good place for me to be leaving off on this particular video. Just making sure that I hit all my notes here. Yeah, it's pretty simple video, I suppose. And we'll leave it right there. We'll come back at it tomorrow. Hopefully, the short-term pullback is played out mostly, if not entirely, by tomorrow. That'll make things a lot more interesting, I suppose, for another short-term analysis. But we'll leave it right there. As always, wish you the best. Take care, much love, and see you hopefully next time.